Koenig Jr., my nickname is Pete. Well, I was an ensign when I went aboard the America on January 3rd, 1965. I was a lieutenant junior grade when I left the America December 16th, 1967, 2 weeks shy of 3 years on the ship. So I was in V6 and then I left. Something happened to a young officer, the air transfer officer, the person responsible for mail, passengers, and cargo on and off the ship. And I heard about it because I saw the guy getting in the cod, all packed up with his B4 bags. And I said to him, "Jim, what's going on?" He says, "I'm going back to the States. I'm getting transferred." I said, "Really? Who's going to be the ATO?" And he says, "I don't know, I don't care." I said, "Well, were you relieved by somebody?" Because normally, if you have a job, somebody comes and relieves you before you leave. You don't just leave. Apparently, he got in some kind of trouble, and he got sent back to the States. So at lunch in the wardroom that day, I was sitting across the table from the captain's secretary, R.J. Adams, an LDO ensign. And I said, "RJ, I see where so-and-so Jim is leaving. And who's going to do that job?" He says, "I don't know, we got a little problem there. I don't have anybody, I said, "Well, I've been on the flight deck. I've watched what he does, and it was a good job. I knew that." And I said, "I could do that." He says, "You really interested?" I said, Yeah, I'd like to do it." Because it involved, among other things, whenever the ship went into port, you were detached, you had independent duty at the local airport. And you did not go back to the ship. You lived ashore in a hotel. You handled mail, passengers, and cargo in large numbers. We would sometimes, in a port, we'd move 500 sailors back to the States, normal rotation, and 500 guys in. We had C-130s and C-118s, thousands of pounds of retrograde cargo. Anything that broke, and then throw it over the side. You put it in a container, send it back to be repaired, and you got a new one. That's basically what I did. One thing led to another. The XO picked me out and said, that day, by 1:30, I had the job. The day I saw a fella getting on the plane, I had it that day. And so these guys at V6, I left them behind, and we're still friends, the sailors. So I guess that would have been about March of 1966. I became the ATO, and I kept that job until I left the ship. I still think about all reports. I literally worked in some of the most interesting places in the world. Elenikin Field in Greece, at Beirut International Airport before any trouble. Beautiful place. It was very exotic to me, very interesting. I lived on the Strand, south of the barracks. Incident where the Marines barracks were blown up in 1983. Well, that was near the embassy.
Okay.
Well, we had to go to the port downtown, and we went by the embassy. It was all very beautiful. It's a lovely area of the Mediterranean. And I found it very pretty, but at the same time, when I left Med to drive inland to the airport, we went 5 miles. And on both sides of the road, behind 12 feet barbed wire fences, were the displaced Palestinian Arabs living in tent cities. Thousands of them. It was very obvious that something was brewing and going to happen in that part of the world. And I just, as I went out to the airport each day, driving down there, I prayed that my truck didn't break down, because I had a feeling my bones would be picked clean right there before they ever got in to get me out. They were concentrated behind the barbed wire and not happy campers. Essentially, it was a campground, and they weren't happy. 5 miles of that, both sides. You came to the road and went down to the airport. And the social life in Beirut was excellent at the time, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Istanbul 4 times. I worked in Nice, France a couple times. Cannes, the Nice airport serves Cannes. Toulon, Marseille, and I was, it was a good job, and it was one of these things that it kept you hopping. And I was not on the watch belt. That was the other position. The ATO and V6 were the 2 positions that weren't on the underway watch belt. I regret that I never drove the ship, I do. But you can't have everything.